Amazing encounter. Struggling dad discovers his first love is now a millionaire CEO. A transformational tale of lost dreams. Mike stood in the gleaming office lobby, feeling completely out of place. The scent of fresh coffee mingled with designer perfume, creating an atmosphere that felt foreign to him. Just an hour ago, he had been hauling furniture, his back aching while juggling thoughts of bills and his twins' endless energy. And here he was, face to face with Sarah, his high school sweetheart, now a polished CEO, effortlessly commanding the space. Memories surged, sweet and intoxicating, but they quickly morphed into a bitter reminder of the life he was still slogging through. How did she get this far while he felt trapped in an endless cycle? Their coffee cups clinked awkwardly in the bustling cafe nearby. He could feel his heart racing, not from excitement but from the gnawing sense of inadequacy creeping in. She laughed the same way he remembered, yet there was a confidence radiating from her that made him question all his choices. He wanted to impress her, to at least show he was worthy, but self-doubt clouded his mind like a storm. What could he possibly say that would list his struggles as achievements? "I'm delivering furniture," didn't he quite match up to her leading a multi-million-dollar tech firm? As they reminisced, tales of old dreams and aspirations spilled between them like wine from a broken bottle, messy but vivid. "You always wanted to change the world," she said, a gentle reminder of who he used to be. He felt the weight of the years pressing down on him. What had happened to those dreams? Lost in the daily grind of work and parenting, the vibrant part of him had faded into a dull rhythm of survival. Before they parted, Sarah leaned across the table, her eyes shimmering with excitement. "You should come mentor some interns at my company. They'd love your experience." A part of him leaped at the chance of break from the routines, an opportunity to reignite that flicker of ambition. But just as quickly, fear sunk in. He had kids to raise, and he could almost hear Ella and Jake calling for him, their laughter reminding him of the stakes. Could he really accept her help? The thought made bile rise in his throat, gnawing at the pride he had built. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let us continue. But just as he started to form an answer, a notification flickered across her phone, shattering the moment between them like shattered glass. A corporate scandal had erupted, their plan for growth threatened. Panic washed over her face, and in that instant, Mike felt his own gut twist. He held information that could expose the truth. Torn between saving her reputation and protecting his family, he felt paralyzed. What was he willing to sacrifice? The weight of indecision festering in him felt like a heavy anchor, dragging him down into uncertainty. Could he really navigate this labyrinth of hopes, fears, and lingering sparks of lost love? As he stared into Sarah's eyes, her vulnerability pinning him with an unbearable intensity, the clock was ticking. Would he stay and fight for a chance to redefine his life, or retreat back into the safety of his routine? His heart raced. He was at the edge of a precipice, staring down into a chasm of possibilities, yet the thought of taking that leap filled him with dread. The choice loomed, and he felt trapped, time slipping through his fingers, dreams hanging in the balance, as their fates tangled together in an intricate dance of might-have-beens. The gravity of the moment was suffocating for Mike. He could feel the heat radiating from Sarah, but more penetrating was the chill of uncertainty weaving through him. Her piercing gaze was asking him to react, to step into the whirlwind that was her corporate life. The tender reminiscences they had shared now felt like a distant echo. Each laugh seemed to usher in a wave of what could have beens that crashed against the shore of their reality. What do I do? The question gnawed at him incessantly. Should he expose the truth, risking personal reprisal or loss of his previously modest respect for himself? Or could he bury it, try to walk away from all of it and from Sarah once again? The thoughts screamed in his head, yet outwardly, he maintained stillness. I have a responsibility to my family, he reminded himself, but that mantra began to crack. The desire to change his own trajectory was awakening something he thought had long lay dormant. Would mentoring those college kids belong to an old Mike, or could it spark something fresh and vital? Sarah shuffled her phone, her attention fleeting in the turmoil of her corporate crisis. He wished to reach out, to comfort her, but the gap between them felt more significant than it ever had. It was rife with the aspirations that could have colored their lives, and he had just stumbled upon an opportunity that potentially held the key to resurrecting his neglected dreams. I can't abandon my kids. They need me, he mumbled, looking away. The notion of rekindling old dreams while neglecting his children gnawed at him. Those tiny faces greeted him at the door, full of laughter and innocence, always ready for a warm embrace. Mike, Sarah said, her voice firm, this isn't just about me. You're more than this. She gestured to the bustling streets outside, where lives entwined with ambition surged towards higher aspirations. Just think about it. You could inspire them, shape their careers. The words landed heavily on him. He had spent years framing his identity around providing, structured neatly within the walls of familial duties. Yet here was an invitation to step beyond that, to be part of something bigger than himself, even more than he had imagined. How can I inspire anyone? He felt incredulous, frustration bubbling. But inside, a part of him was stirred. The yearning to be recognized, to matter beyond obligations, clawed at him. She regarded him, concern pooling in her eyes. Sometimes, all it takes is knowing what you've always wanted. You were never just a furniture mover, you were a dreamer once. He contemplated her words and felt a flicker of possibility ignite within him. He was standing in a moment that demanded clarity, where dreams dangled before him, just out of reach, yet tantalizingly close. It crystallized. He had spent too long in a self-imposed prison of mediocrity, comparing himself to a version of a successful person that someone else wrote for him. A phone buzzed against the table, a jarring reminder of the reality he had to contend with. Sarah sighed heavily, scrolling through the developments of the scandal spiraling out of control, leaving her company vulnerable. What if I need someone in my corner? She whispered, eyes darting to him, searching for that flicker of passion he had buried deep. It hit him then. This could be his moment, not just to help Sarah, but also to extract himself from the shadows of conformity. His responsibilities didn't have to be chains, they could become winged boots that lifted him to new heights. I need time to think, he finally spoke, feeling the frail barrier of indecision beginning to crack. Then think wisely. Your life, the space you occupy, isn't just about existing, it's about living. You have a chance to reinvent, Mike. Don't let this slip away. As they parted ways, a surge of determination coursed through Mike. The path ahead felt intimidating yet full of promise. He understood that something pivotal was on the horizon, the pull towards professional resurgence warred with his tie to fatherhood. As night fell, Mike stood looking out his living room window, watching Ella and Jake chase fireflies, their laughter broadcasting the joy he hadn't allowed himself to embrace in years. It struck him that now, the universe was posing the ultimate question: how could he teach them to chase their dreams when he hadn't chased his own? In that moment, his decision gathered weight. But at the heart of his resolve loomed a new dilemma. His past and ambitions were intertwined, and facing one meant confronting the other. Would he confront the challenge with courage or run back to his comfort zone? The time had come to face the truth about himself. With a deep breath, he stepped away from the window. Tomorrow, he would reach out to Sarah, his heart thumping with anticipation. Something had to change, the stirring within him demanded it. And yet, as he drifted off to sleep, the shadows of self-doubt lingered. Would he truly have the courage to embrace this new chapter in his life? The morning light filtered softly through the curtains, illuminating the gentle chaos of toys scattered across the living room floor. Mike stood there, savoring the moment of stillness before the reality of his responsibilities bruised the calm. Memories of last night rolled over him like an incoming tide. The warmth of Sarah's words, the weight of possibility settled on his shoulders, both exhilarating and terrifying. He moved through the motions of breakfast, pouring cereal with the precision of a surgeon, yet every action felt weighed down by the choices swirling in his mind. The reality of his life's path stretched before him like an untraveled road. How would he creep toward a future brimming with the potential of mentorship while ensuring his kids felt his unwavering presence? Dad! Ella's voice broke through his ruminations, pulling him back into the moment as she bounced into the kitchen with wild, uncontained energy. Can we go outside after breakfast? I want to play tag. Jake followed close behind, his innocence radiating in his wide eyes, where the delight in simple pleasures reigned supreme. They were the very reason Mike felt grounded, yet they also represented the very anchor that sometimes weighed him down. Of course, we will. But first, we have to finish breakfast, he replied, smiling despite the inner tumult. As they ate, he caught glimpses of their laughter, and for a moment, he emerged from the shadows of his self-doubt, feeling their joy intertwining with his longing to carve out something meaningful in his life. Later, pacing in his cluttered backyard, he wrestled thoughts together, to have a clear conscience to approach Sarah. The decision finally exposed itself like an unexpected revelation, the chance to not only lend a hand to someone he admired but to also foster his aspirations. The parallels between mentorship and fatherhood began to blur, the leadership, the lessons, the guidance, all aimed at raising spirits to their fullest potential. Yet doubts continued to plague him like persistent gnats as the afternoon sun bore down. What do I have to offer? He muttered to himself. Who am I to lead? He shook his head, the sundry insecurities battling against the flickering fire of ambition awakening in his core. It was then that he remembered his college days when he had thrived in a learning environment, not just absorbing knowledge but sharing it, sparking ideas, engaging others in meaningful discourse. That part of him felt buried, nearly extinct in the years of responsibility, overshadowed by the grind of adulthood and the need to earn a living. Could that part of him return? Mike reached for his phone. The volley between enthusiasm and hesitation paused as he hovered above the contact for Sarah. Would his decision to reach out now, this moment, set the tone for his future? Would it speak to the father he wanted to be, and the role he envisioned for himself professionally? His hand trembled as he dialed, the sound of Sarah's voice breathing life into the silence on the other end. Mike? Is everything okay? Actually, it's not urgent. I've been thinking about what you said yesterday, he started, instantly feeling the weight lift, albeit slightly. I'd like to talk about helping you with the college initiative. I might be able to contribute. A brief silence layered with disbelief hung. But then, a break of excitement threaded through her response. Really? That's fantastic. I knew you'd see the value in it. As they discussed details, his voice carried newfound conviction, each shared idea blossoming into vibrant visions of possibility. As they hung up, a pulse of energy surged through him. He hadn't merely returned the favor to Sarah, he had taken a step forward into the man he wanted to be. The layers of fear began to peel away. However, shadows loomed large as he considered another reality surfacing at home. The kids, the cherished time that mattered above all else, hung in a delicate balance. Was he forging forward, or was he tipping the scale, risking moments that mattered? Undoubtedly, his dual ambitions began to weave a fabric of conflict. Promises to himself and responsibilities to his family intersected in messy threads. He faced a daring question shadowing the echo of their laughter. Would this new opportunity compromise the one thing that gave his life meaning? As evening approached, the echoes of laughter grew distant, replaced by a soft tension that gripped his heart. He needed to confront the depth of his convictions, to ensure that his path was not just for him, but for the vibrant future of his children. With this newfound resolve simmering beneath his skin, he stood at a crossroads where the well-worn road met a brilliant, unmarked path calling him towards profound change. Tomorrow would demand action both from Mike and the father he aspired to be. Would he embrace the challenge ahead, or would he retreat into the comfort of the familiar? The moment of truth was nigh, and his pulse raced with conflicting hope and dread. The metamorphosis he craved hung tantalizingly within reach, but the question now loomed larger than ever: how to reconcile the two worlds of ambition and love that defined him. The echoing laughter of his children filled the room. It was a sound he cherished more than any opportunity. Yet, somewhere beneath that laughter lay the pressing weight of his choice. He would either seize this promising chance or allow self-doubt to steal moments wrapped in joy. The morning arrived, gray clouds gathering suspiciously on the horizon, mirroring the doubts swirling in Mike's mind. He moved through familiar routines, forced smiles plastered across his face for his children while the weight of his choices pressed down like the leaden sky. Coaching Ella and Jake during their breakfast, he found himself slipping between their innocent requests and the nagging thoughts about the mentorship project. While he encouraged them to finish their pancakes, he calculated how his days would shift. A few hours of dedicated work toward this initiative could mean less time in their explosive world of play and laughter. Did he even have enough reserves to provide both guidance to eager students and be the dad they deserved? Maybe I could just meet with Sarah once a week. He mumbled unintentionally, lost in thought as he collected their plates from the table. Jake looked up, paused with a piece of pancake halfway to his mouth. "What a week, Daddy?" "Just a measure of time," he replied, his voice faltering, as he realized how much his musings impacted them. It was their unwavering gaze that shattered his tentative plans. They were so in the moment, unaware of the profound gravity lurking behind their dad's smile. As he prepared for the day ahead, Mike grabbed his laptop, the very essence of his ambitions tucked within the sleek, metallic surface. He slapped on a heavy coat despite the warm climate, a protective layer against the tensions gnawing at his spirit. He tucked his laptop bag under his arm and paused at the door, glancing back at the kids who were now engrossed in a superhero battle, their laughter slicing through the thick fog in his head. Outside, the air was cooler than anticipated, a sharp contrast to his rising tension. Each step toward his car felt monumental as he questioned the weight of his impending decisions. He could forge his identity anew, carving out a piece of fulfillment he desperately sought from life, but at what cost? Arriving at the community center where he was to meet Sarah, Mike hesitated as his foot hovered over the threshold. The clang of metal doors resonated deeply in his chest, paralyzing him for a moment. Each inhalation was twisted with a bittersweet cocktail of excitement and uncertainty. What if he failed? What if he stumbled through the first significant task he'd taken in years? Shadows of doubt still lurked, that gnawing voice asking who he thought he was. As the meeting commenced, Mike was warmed by the vibrant energy Sarah radiated. She outlined their vision with fluidity, her passion infectious. Yet, within Mike, the turbulence brewed. It was one thing to support another's dream, it was entirely different to forge his own. Sarah's charisma pulled him in, igniting just enough hope to drown out the critic inside. Conversing freely ignited the remnants of that college student eager to learn and shape minds. Ideas bubbled between them. By the time they wrapped up, an hour felt like mere moments. Yet, lingering over their camaraderie were unanswered questions about his own capacity to lead. As he left the meeting, Mike felt lighter, enkindled by the spark of purpose. But the return to the car brought the crushing weight of reality pressing down on him. It felt like a trap. Could he afford to invest this energy and time when every tick of the clock took him away from his children? Testing the waters of ambition meant risking the intimate moments he held dear. The duality of his life now struck him sharply. With every step back home, he found himself rationalizing his absence, a slippery slope leading to a precarious edge. Opportunity dangled tantalizingly before him, yet it threatened to pull him from the comforting embrace of fatherly duties. Inside the house, it was chaos. Ella's giggles tangled with Jake's cries, the symphony of childhood playing out before him. He wanted to dive into their world, to heal any lingering guilt festering in his chest. Yet, glimmers of clarity pierced through the chaos. He had a choice before him, a chance to transform not only his career but also the example he set for his children. The path he chose would ripple outwards, like the waves of a stone cast into water, affecting those he loved most. How could he embrace this opportunity while ensuring he didn't fracture their sacred time together? Would he be brave enough to be present in both worlds? Today had set the stage, but Michael knew the real confrontation awaited. Turning to his kids, he questioned if the shifting tides of his aspirations would elevate his family or drown them in neglect. The laughter filled the air, but beneath it lay a knowing whisper, "This is only the beginning." He needed to unravel the tension wrapped tightly around his heart because a choice was coming he could no longer avoid. The moment of truth beckoned, and the echo of the childlike laughter began to dissolve into whispers of burgeoning transformation and irreversible change. The evening settled around Mike like a heavy blanket, dulling the vibrant chaos of his home. He found solace on the edge of the couch, staring at nothing in particular, the laughter still echoing in the back of his mind. The disparity between their joy and his turmoil gnawed at him. The kids, blissfully unaware, continued their games, their innocence a stark reminder of what was at stake. An unforeseen shift had begun within him, a whisper of resolve rising above the din. Mike understood that if he wished to model resilience and ambition, he first had to wrestle his fear. He needed to embrace the journey, not just the destination. Yet how could he transform this nebulous ambition into action without it consuming his family? He felt compelled to act, to voice his fears aloud. "I need to find a balance," he whispered to himself, the words tasting both foreign and familiar. Gathering the audacity he thought he had tucked away, Mike stood. He walked over to where Ella and Jake were building a fort, their laughter pulling him into their world. "Hey, superheroes," he called, a hint of playfulness filling his tone. Ella turned, her eyes lighting up. "Daddy, help us. We need a strong wall." For the next hour, Mike threw himself into the imaginative fortress. As they used couch cushions and blankets, he began to visualize an idea for Project Mentorship, a program that would not only serve budding minds but also foster connections among fathers and children. He could intertwine his passion with family time, creating something that allowed him to give back while grounding himself in a world he loved. Energized by this thought, Mike felt the weight of his ambitions shift. His children's laughter became the backdrop for his newfound determination. Could he tackle both worlds effectively? Could he prove that pursuing aspirations didn't necessitate sacrificing family? After settling the kids down for bed, Mike opened his laptop once again, the device now feeling far less foreboding. Motivated by the earlier exchange, he began drafting ideas for the mentorship project. The more he typed, the more coherent his vision became. The prospect of involving families in the initiative electrified him. But just as he began to sketch a rough outline, a notification pinged on his screen, pulling him from his thoughts. It was a message from Sarah, reminding him of their meeting next week. As he read her words, a pang of nervous excitement shot through him. The idea of discussing his vision with her filled him with anticipation, yet it also reignited the flickering doubts about whether he truly had the qualifications for this venture. A part of him longed to push through, eager to rise above the questioning shadows. But another part hesitated, gripped by the fear of falling short. In that moment, clarity broke through. The path forward didn't need to be perfect, it just needed to be genuine. Mike recognized that discussing his fears and ambitions with Sarah was just as important as the technical capabilities he feared he lacked. Sharing his struggles could very well mark the foundation of their collaborative effort. He could be both a father and a professional, and perhaps, that was the intimate lesson he needed to impart to his kids. As his fingers danced across the keyboard, crafting his thoughts into words, a profound realization dawned: this was more than about pursuing a project. It was about embracing growth, in whatever form it manifested. The ego Paul was guiding him through this uncertain terrain, but the final strand of resolve tied itself firmly to a new understanding. He would reshape his identity by engaging fully in his passions while remaining fiercely present for Ella and Jake. Before he closed his laptop for the night, Mike set a small goal for himself. He decided he would confront his uncertainties head-on, starting in the morning. He would discuss his plans with Sarah, but most importantly, he would share his journey with his children. Exhaling deeply, he reveled in this commitment, knowing a deeper transformation was on the horizon. As he shuffled off to bed, determination coursed through him like an electric current. He would not only be a father, he would be an inspiration both for his kids and for himself. Yet, even as those thoughts warmed his heart, another realization loomed in the back of his mind. The shadows of his past still lingered, ready to confront him at a moment's notice. Could he confront the ghosts that often threatened to undermine his potential? Tomorrow would beckon new challenges, and Mike's resolve would be tested once again. The stage was set, and he was ready to face whatever came next. As the morning light crept through the curtains, Mike woke with a sense of urgency swelling inside him. Today would be different. He rubbed the sleep from his eyes, but it felt as if the heaviness of his fears was melting away, replaced by a budding anticipation. The notion of pursuing project mentorship now felt not only viable but necessary. It was time to embrace the opportunities that lay before him. After a quick breakfast with Ella and Jake, who were animatedly discussing their plans for the day, Mike's thoughts shifted to his upcoming meeting with Sarah. Memories of their shared idealism during college danced in his mind, a bittersweet contrast to the doubts that had overshadowed him for so long. Could that same spirited passion be rekindled in their collaboration? He shook his head, trying to stay anchored to the present. "Daddy! Come play!" Ella shouted, breaking his reverie. He smiled, but something sharper persisted at the edges of his thoughts. As he joined in their game, a nagging sense of imposter syndrome arose. Was he truly prepared for the demands of the mentorship project? More importantly, could he truly inspire anyone with his wavering confidence? After the morning chaos, he grabbed his laptop once more, determined to consolidate his ideas and prepare some notes for his meeting. As he typed, he articulated his vision clearly, detailing not only the structure of the mentorship program but also how it could enhance familial connections. Each word on the screen felt like a stepping stone towards something greater, a tangible embodiment of his aspirations. Yet, with every keystroke, shadows flickered back into his consciousness, whispers of doubt attempting to seep in. He recalled the times he had abandoned projects and ideas due to fear, groping in the dark for validation he didn't think he deserved. This time, however, he was not merely creating for himself, he was inspired by the chance to foster growth in others, particularly in his children. Finishing his notes, Mike took a deep breath. Minutes ticked by before he donned his jacket, the fabric feeling heavier than usual. He felt like he was about to step onto a tightrope, balancing uncertainty and the drive for progress. As he walked towards the coffee shop where they'd meet, he rehearsed his pitch in his mind, anxiously fidgeting with the sleeves of his jacket. Each optimistic thought bore the weight of its counterpart. What if Sarah had expectations he couldn't meet? Would his ideas seem juvenile against the backdrop of her accomplished career? Upon entering the coffee shop, the smell of freshly brewed coffee enveloped him, momentarily grounding him in the present. But just as the initial excitement sparked within him, he spotted Sarah sitting at a table, her aura radiating confidence. That familiar warmth from their past rushed through him, yet a jolt of fear pulled him back. "Mike!" she exclaimed, her smile genuine and inviting. As he approached, a surge of nostalgia washed over him. They had shared dreams back then, visions unmarred by the responsibilities each had since assumed. Once seated, she wasted no time, curious about his project. Mike felt vulnerable as he shared his thoughts, laying bare his ambition and apprehensions. Each admission chipped away at the wall of fear that had long fortified his spirit. But then Sarah began peeling away his apprehensions, reflecting back his ideas with respect and enthusiasm. It was intoxicating, a dialogue of mutual creativity with no hint of judgment. In that space, Mike discovered a sliver of clarity. The tension dissolving wasn't just his fears but his understanding of his own worth. As they exchanged ideas, her inputs illuminated aspects of his vision he hadn't even considered. It occurred to him that he wasn't just seeking her approval, he was building a partnership, two people with different strengths tackling the same goal. When their meeting ended, an energized Mike stood up, armed with not only an outline for project mentorship but a strengthened sense of self. Yet lurking beneath that exhilaration was the realization that his journey was only beginning. There were hurdles yet to face, and they would demand more than words. As he stepped back into the bustling world outside, the shadows he had confronted never fully receded. Today had been a victory, but deep within lay the question: how would he navigate the unexpected revelations of the past that threatened to resurface? Mike couldn't shake the sensation that unfinished business lingered just out of sight, waiting for its moment to unveil itself. Would he have the fortitude to confront it, or would it unravel all he was beginning to construct? As he pondered this uncertain path, a sense of urgency surged through him. Tomorrow's challenges beckoned, and Mike was determined to meet them. With the sun setting in hues of orange and purple, Mike's mind buzzed with the echoes of the day. The coffee shop was behind him, but the conversations with Sarah lingered. He felt alive, yet he was acutely aware of the specter of what lay ahead. The momentum he had gained today was vital, but it felt inadequate against the chasm of uncertainty that loomed in his personal life. The evening turned darker, and with each step towards home, doubt bubbled up again. Ella's laughter had buoyed his spirits, but visions of the mentorship project collided with memories of his past failures. The notion of falling short suddenly felt like a tangible weight against his chest. Was he truly ready? Was this renewed sense of self-confidence just a passing moment in the wake of a fleeting conversation? When he entered the house, Jake was sprawled out on the living room floor, engrossed in a drawing. "Daddy, look at my rocket!" he exclaimed, abandoning crayons for a moment to show off his creation. It was vibrant and imaginative, embodying everything a child's dream could be. For a fleeting second, Mike marveled at Jake's unfiltered joy. "Wow, buddy! That's incredible," Mike encouraged. But as he looked deeper into his son's eyes, he was reminded of his own dreams that had flickered out like a dimming bulb. Would he continue to let shadows extinguish his light? "Why are you frowning?" Jake asked, tilting his head as if sensing his father's turmoil. That innocent question struck Mike with profound intensity. He took a deep breath before replying, "I guess I'm just thinking about the future." Ella joined them, hugging her stuffed bunny tightly. "The future is fun. Can I be an astronaut?" "Why not?" Mike replied, yet inside, he felt the sting of doubt. Could he inspire that same ambition in his children when he sometimes lacked it within himself? Later, when the kids were tucked into bed, he returned to the laptop determined to flesh out Project Mentorship. He opened his notes from the meeting with Sarah. Each bullet point seemed to pulse with potential, a call to action he was ready to answer. Yet, a profound realization dawned: if he was to be a mentor, he would first need to confront his own fears and disappointments. Could he be the example his children needed? Hours passed as he brainstormed possible challenges for the mentorship program. It evolved from a vague concept into a structured framework. He envisioned workshops, sessions that would not only empower others but also reinforce his commitment to himself. It wouldn't be enough to just lead, he needed to embody the principles he wanted to instill in the participants. But just as clarity began to settle in, the harsh voice of critique surfaced again. What if no one came? What if his ideas were deemed impractical? The redeeming thought glimmered: what if he succeeded? Facing the screen, he drafted an email to Sarah, suggesting they expand their discussion to include potential obstacles they might face together. Sending the email felt liberating, yet oddly disconcerting. It was a step forward, but also a leap into the unknown. What would she think of him proposing concrete plans based on their preliminary conversations? As he closed his laptop, mind racing and heart pounding, he recognized that this venture was not merely about professional advancement, it was the embodiment of a quest for personal redemption. In this intricate web of aspirations and fears, something vital was awakening within him. Yet still, the specters of the past echoed around crowded corners of his mind. Was he strong enough to confront these daunting shadows, or was he merely fooling himself? As he sank onto the couch, feeling fatigue wash over him, the truth surfaced: facing Sarah again would not simply be about their project, but about untangling the threads of their shared history, which held as much promise as it did pain. Tomorrow would challenge him in ways he hadn't even begun to fathom. What ghosts would rear their heads, and could he harness the strength to face them head-on? With resolve coiling in his chest, Mike found himself quietly asking an unsettling question: what awaited him in the next chapter of his life, and would he emerge stronger or be consumed by the very shadows from which he sought freedom? Morning sunlight pierced through the half-drawn curtains, draping Mike in a warm glow that felt almost foreign after a night of restless thoughts. He had hardly slept, the weight of the previous day's revelations pressing down harder than ever. Today was not merely another day, it was a reckoning, a moment that would challenge the foundations of his self-worth and aspirations. After getting the kids ready, Jake with his rocket drawing tucked securely under his arm and Ella bouncing excitedly in her dress, he dropped them off at school. As he drove, the rhythm of the city felt oddly comforting, yet an insistent anxiety churned in his stomach. Today's meeting with Sarah loomed large in his mind, whispering doubts that echoed like shouts. What if she dismissed his ideas? What if she saw through his facade, revealing the scared man he often kept buried inside? He parked outside the quaint coffee shop where they had met before, the same vibrant atmosphere now feeling suffocating instead. He lingered for a moment, running a hand down his face, attempting to summon the courage he desperately needed. As he stepped out of the car, he caught a glimpse of himself in the rearview mirror, and the reflection startled him. The weary lines of doubt were etched deeply across his brow. Was this truly the man he wanted to present to Sarah? Taking a fortifying breath, he entered the shop, the rich aroma of coffee rushing to greet him. Sarah was already seated at a table, her laptop open and fingers poised over the keys. She looked up and smiled, an expression that momentarily brought him peace. Yet, beneath that smile lay uncharted territory, and he sensed the weight of their history yet to be explored. "Good morning," she said, a note of warmth in her voice that beckoned him forward. "Morning," he replied, trying to keep his tone steady as he sat down. "I sent over some ideas about the mentorship program last night. Did you have a chance to look at them?" "Actually, I did," she replied, her gaze intense and focused. "I'm impressed by how you've structured it. You've laid out a clear path." He felt a flush of pride wash over him momentarily, but quickly turned inward. The question loomed: did she see the potential in him, or simply the merit of the proposal? As they delved into a discussion, he began to realize how much their past intertwined with the professional endeavor at hand. Each touch point of their conversation felt laden with unsaid acknowledgments, clandestine memories of laughter, struggles, aspirations once shared and now revived through the prism of time. As they worked through logistical issues and anticipated challenges, he prepared himself to confront his own ghosts. "You know, I've struggled with my self-confidence," he confessed, breaking away from the structured agenda. The admission slipped out before he had a chance to reconsider. "Every time I think I'm ready to lead, those old fears creep back in, and it's hard to shake them off." Sarah paused, eyes narrowing in consideration. "You did lead before. You've changed, Mike. Those fears don't define you. They're part of your story." Her words struck a chord, washing over him like a balm. "Maybe," he replied contemplatively, searching for the right words. "But can a person really reshape their narrative, or are we all just acting out the roles we're scripted into? In my experience, we have that power. It takes courage to step into the unknown and rewrite those scripts, but it can also be freeing." Her voice held an unwavering conviction. As they discussed details about the program they would launch together, Mike felt a newfound charge coursing through him. Perhaps this mentorship project was not merely about helping others, it was a pivotal chance to reclaim his narrative and demonstrate to his children that their father was a man who could confront and conquer his fears. But as they finalized their plans, a thought nagged at him: how much could he truly grow in his second act, and at what cost? The very fabric of his past seemed poised to unravel before him, waiting for the moment he would have to confront it fully. "Let's touch base again next week," Sarah suggested, gathering her belongings. "All business now." "Sure," he said, but inside, uncertainty loomed. Would next week bring clarity or confrontations he wasn't ready to face? As they wrapped up the meeting, Mike's heart raced with a cocktail of anticipation and trepidation. Could this project mark a new beginning for him? Would his children see him as someone who persisted against their own doubts? With his resolve surging, he acknowledged that the experiences of the past would either weigh him down or propel him forward. Stepping out of the coffee shop, the sun bright and vivid above, Mike felt an unfamiliar swell of determination. Yet, amid this burgeoning confidence, shadows lingered, reminders of the history with Sarah that still loomed. But what he didn't expect was why she had really chosen to partner with him. As he turned to leave, the thought gripped him with an intensity he couldn't shake. What was she hiding behind that determined smile? Would their collaboration truly be about the mentorship, or was it about something deeper between them? Mike walked away from the coffee shop feeling a mix of exhilaration and dread. The sun cast bright streaks across the pavement, but the warmth it offered felt distant, shrouded by a daunting sense of impending confrontation. He couldn't shake the realization that his partnership with Sarah could unearth not just professional potential but buried emotions he hadn't wanted to confront since their paths diverged. Over the next few days, he oscillated between eager anticipation for their next meeting and growing anxiety. The mentorship program could represent a fresh start, yet he wrestled with the phantom whispers of self-doubt. Questions plagued him: was he truly capable of leading this initiative? Was he ready to step into a role he'd shied away from for years? As the sun rose the day before their scheduled follow-up, Mike's thoughts turned inward. Remembering the countless moments he spent putting out fires in the past, he found himself uncomfortably anchored in reflections of failure and lost opportunities. But there was also something new that flickered within him, a determination. He had stumbled upon his desire not just to reshape his narrative but to redefine his life one step at a time. He decided to take action. The evening before the meeting, Mike sat down to write a detailed outline of what he envisioned for the mentorship program. It wasn't just a proposal anymore, it was an extension of himself, a manifestation of his renewal. Each section he penned became a declaration of intent, a space where he could channel both his experience and aspirations. He began to see the program not merely as a way to guide others but as a vessel for his own growth. When he finished, he leaned back and glanced around the dim light of his living room, the walls filled with remnants of his past. The laughter of his children echoed like a soundtrack beneath the surface. That energy surged through him, whispering a reminder: he was not alone. These moments, small as they may be, grounded and motivated him. The next day, his nerves crackled as he entered the coffee shop once again. Sarah was already there, her presence a mix of challenge and comfort. They exchanged pleasantries, but the air seemed thicker today, charged with unsaid words and expectations. "I made some updates to the proposal," Mike said, sliding the carefully printed document toward her. As she perused it, he couldn't help but brace himself for her judgment. Would she see the effort as genuine or merely another pitiful attempt to rise? "Mike, this is fantastic." Her eyes sparkled with enthusiasm, lifting the weight that had threatened to collapse on him. "You've clearly put so much thought into it. I can see how dedicated you are." And then it happened. The recognition blossomed like spring after winter's chokehold. He saw not just approval but validation and respect. The conversation shifted seamlessly into ideas and implementations, but beneath the surface, he felt a current running deeper. They were treading into a territory where professional synergy brushed against personal history, and for the first time, he felt deserving of being part of this dance. "I never really thanked you," Sarah said suddenly, catching him off guard. He noticed the seriousness in her tone. "For what we had. It shaped me in ways I didn't even realize until later." The sincerity in her words pierced his defenses. A flush crept into his chest, nudging him closer to vulnerability. "Likewise," he replied, his voice unsteady. "I think we both learned and grew from that time, didn't we?" Their eyes locked in a moment charged with unvoiced tensions, and he felt a rush of possibilities flooding in. The previous notion that they were merely two professionals collaborating began dissolving into something more intricate. Was this program merely a project, or was it a bridge back to the companionship they once shared? Yet before he could fully explore the implications of their dynamic, Sarah shifted back to business mode. "Let us hit the ground running." We can meet with a few key stakeholders next week, she said, resuming the momentum of the discussion. As the meeting ended, Mike walked away invigorated but bewildered. The work ahead was daunting, yet there was a door now partially ajar, a chance to explore a refined relationship with Sarah alongside the professional venture. Now, with so many loose threads beginning to entangle, he couldn't help but wonder, was his chance for a new start about to be compromised by the past, or could he finally embrace everything that came with it? The realization settled heavily. The real test awaited, one that demanded all of his strength to face the histories that interwove their paths. And as he steeled himself for the challenging journey ahead, one thought loomed large: would he have the courage to confront the ghosts of yesterday while embracing the promise of tomorrow? Mike stood at the precipice of a newfound destiny, reflecting on his journey over the past few months. The collaboration with Sarah had unfolded in unexpected ways. Each meeting brought not only professional insights but also deeper connections, reigniting long-stifled aspects of himself. The mentorship program had evolved beyond a simple project. It became a vehicle of redemption, intertwining dreams with responsibility. As the initial workshop approached, Mike felt a transformative energy coursing through him. Each interaction with Sarah had chipped away at the insecurities that once confined him, paving the way to renewed self-assurance. Their shared vision had culminated into a structured framework where his experiences could empower young minds, and every step toward implementation reignited the dreamer he once was. The evening before the launch, he gathered his children, Ella and Jake, around the kitchen table. Inspired by their earlier desire to chase dreams, he wanted to share his journey. "Tomorrow, I'm going to start something really meaningful," he said, his heart fluttering with both excitement and fear. "I'm mentoring some college students who want to change the world." "Wow, Dad. That sounds super cool," Ella exclaimed, her face beaming with pride. "Are you going to teach them how to build rockets?" Jake added, his eyes wide with admiration. Mike chuckled, the warmth of their innocent belief fueling his resolve. "Not quite rockets, buddy, but I want to help them launch their own dreams." In that moment, the struggle of balancing personal ambitions with paternal duties became crystal clear. No longer were they opposing forces, they were synergistic facets of his identity. He realized that engaging with his children about his aspirations instilled in them a belief that they, too, could pursue their own dreams without guilt. The following day, as he entered the bustling community center filled with eager faces, Mike felt his heart race. He had faced his fears, combined his responsibilities, and now stood as a mentor not just in title but in spirit. The first workshop exceeded expectations. Ideas flowed freely as Mike encouraged each attendee to see beyond their limitations. At that moment of clarity, he recognized a profound truth: he was creating a legacy while simultaneously reaffirming his role as a father, one that inspired his children to embrace their own potential. Days turned into weeks, and the program flourished. Students thrived under his guidance, and Mike's understanding of mentorship deepened. Yet, intertwined with this growth was an undeniable truth: the shadows of his past relationship with Sarah were not fully behind him. Their professional collaboration became increasingly intertwined with lingering emotions. One evening, after wrapping up a successful session, Mike found himself alone with Sarah in the center's empty conference room. They had been sharing reflections when Sarah, her expression a mix of nostalgia and curiosity, asked, "Have you thought more about what this all means for us?" Her question hung heavy in the air, stirring a wave of memories and feelings he had tried to compartmentalize. With courage swelling within him, he replied, "I think our connection has transformed through this partnership. I'm starting to see how what we're doing goes beyond just work." She nodded, her gaze intensifying. "I never imagined how much I would cherish this dynamic. It's more than I thought it could be." As Mike absorbed her words, clarity surged in him once more. The discomfort he had felt previously began to dissipate, replaced by an understanding that their shared journey was not only about mentorship. It was a personal evolution that rekindled old flames in fresh contexts. "I believe we both deserve to explore where this can lead, but only if we're mature enough to face the past," he said earnestly. "I want you to know I'm committed to this endeavor for the students, but also for ourselves. In that exchange, he felt the foundations of his past start to solidify into something more profound. Their embrace of vulnerability didn't just reshape their professional lives, it opened new avenues for relational exploration. As he exited the building that evening, Mike felt the weight of uncertainty ease. His journey had come full circle. He had faced his insecurities, honed his passion for mentorship, and rekindled the spark of old love while accepting the complexities of his responsibilities. At home, watching his children peacefully asleep, Mike felt an overwhelming sense of fulfillment. They had witnessed the evolution of their father, a man who chose not just to survive but to thrive. Things would not always be perfect, and challenges would arise like storm clouds looming in the distance. But he emerged ready to embrace everything that came next, including the blossoming relationship with Sarah and his renewed commitment to his family. The sun set beyond the horizon, but deep inside Mike burned a bright flame, reflecting a life reborn, ambitions intertwined, and dreams nurtured. This was his moment, realizing that personal achievement was not just about what one could conquer alone but what could be achieved with authenticity and love. As he turned down the hall to his bedroom, a resonant question echoed softly in his heart: what was next on this incredible journey of rediscovery? You need to subscribe now to the channel for more exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, it truly matters. Comment with your reactions and theories about Mike's journey. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to support us. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the impact of your engagement.